The psychology of silent men. What Stoics knew about strength. In a world that never stops talking, the man who remains silent becomes the loudest voice in the room. The unspoken power of silence. Why silent men command more respect without saying a word. Have you ever noticed how the loudest person in the room often gets ignored, but the man who says nothing somehow gets everyone's attention? There's a strange, almost magnetic power in silence. A power that doesn't need to shout, doesn't need to argue, doesn't need to prove itself. And yet, it commands more respect than 1,000 words ever could. Most men today feel the need to constantly explain themselves, to defend, to prove, to compete in noise. They post, they argue, they shout louder just to feel heard. But here's the irony. The more noise a man makes, the less people truly listen. Meanwhile, the silent man, the one who doesn't feel the need to answer every question or react to every provocation, he stands out. He becomes the mystery. And people are drawn to mystery far more than they are drawn to noise. In this video, I'm going to reveal the psychology behind why silent men are respected, feared, and remembered. I'll also show you how to cultivate this silent strength in your own life without becoming cold, disconnected, or invisible. Think about it. When was the last time you were in a group and a man who barely spoke suddenly decided to say one thing? Everyone stopped. Everyone listened. His words carried weight because his silence gave them power. It's not about being mute. It's about choosing your words like a swordsman chooses his strikes. Precise, rare, and unforgettable. And this isn't just modern psychology talking. The ancient Stoics knew this long before social media and endless noise consumed us. Marcus Aurelius, Rome's philosopher king, wrote in his private journal that restraint in words is a reflection of restraint in the soul. So what did the Stoics understand about silence that we've forgotten today? That's where we're going next. The Stoic connection. Marcus Aurelius and the art of restraint. Picture a man who ruled the most powerful empire in the world. Millions of lives rested on his decisions. Armies marched at his command. And yet, Marcus Aurelius, the emperor-philosopher, often chose silence over speech. Why? Because he understood something timeless. Words are cheap, but restraint is priceless. In his meditations, which, by the way, were never meant to be published, Marcus often reminded himself, you always own the option of having no opinion. Things are not asking to be judged by you. Leave them alone. He wasn't writing for an audience. He was writing for himself, for discipline, for mastery of his own mind. This was a man surrounded by noise, senators plotting, generals advising, crowds cheering or rioting. Yet he kept reminding himself that true strength doesn't come from reacting, but from restraining. Imagine the temptation he must have felt to defend himself against critics, to silence enemies with harsh decrees, to lash out with the power of an emperor. But he didn't. Marcus knew that every reaction is a chain. If someone insults you and you lash back, they control you. If someone provokes you and you rise to it, they own your emotions. By staying silent, Marcus Aurelius stayed free. Modern psychology agrees with this. Silence creates psychological distance. When you don't respond immediately, you gain space to think. And in that space, you take back your power. Silence disrupts the pattern. It confuses those who expect a fight. It forces others to sit with their own words. This is why restraint is so powerful. It shifts control back to you. So, when people wonder why silent men often command more respect, it's not an accident. It's a reflection of deep inner strength. The same strength Marcus Aurelius practiced as emperor. But here's the question. What does modern psychology reveal about the hidden strength of silence? That's what we'll uncover next. The hidden psychology behind quiet strength. Why do silent men often feel like they carry a weight that others can't see? Why does their quietness create both respect and curiosity? The answer lies in psychology, how the human brain responds to presence, mystery, and restraint. Psychologists have long studied something called the scarcity principle. Simply put, the less you reveal, the more valuable you appear. Think about it. If a man shares every detail of his thoughts, his plans, his emotions, he leaves no mystery. People stop wondering about him. But when a man is selective with his words, when he chooses to speak less, every word becomes rare, and rare things are always more valuable. This is why the quiet man doesn't just blend in, he often stands out. His silence isn't emptiness, it's presence. Another layer is emotional regulation. Research shows that people who can regulate their emotions, who don't react impulsively, are perceived as more intelligent, more stable, and more trustworthy. When a man doesn't rush to fill silence, doesn't snap at provocation, and doesn't spill his emotions everywhere, people feel safe around him. His restraint signals control. And control, in the psychology of respect, equals strength. Here's something most people don't realize. Silence makes other people reveal themselves. In conversations, when a man listens more than he speaks, people often rush to fill the quiet. They talk more, they reveal more, they even expose weaknesses without realizing it. The silent man, meanwhile, gathers information, observes, and understands, while the other reveals themselves fully. In this way, silence becomes a mirror. It reflects more about others than it does about you. But let's be honest, being silent isn't easy. In a world of constant talking, scrolling, and posting, silence can feel like weakness. People might even label you cold or distant. Yet here's the truth. It takes far more strength to hold back than it does to spill everything. Quiet men carry a hidden discipline, and the world always senses it, even if they don't say it out loud. But here's the problem. Most men don't know how to use silence. They confuse it with isolation, or they shut down instead of standing strong. So how do you build this inner calm without disappearing? That's where we move next, into practical frameworks to master silence in a loud, chaotic world. From noise to mastery, building inner calm in a loud world. We live in a world that worships noise. Social media rewards the loudest opinions. Workplaces often reward the one who talks the most in meetings. Even friendships can turn into competitions for attention. But here's the truth. Real mastery comes from stepping above the noise, not joining it. Silent men don't escape the world. They move through it with calm, deliberate strength. And the good news is, this isn't some rare gift. It's a discipline anyone can build. The first practice is simple but life-changing. Pause before you respond. Modern psychology shows that the brain's emotional center, the amygdala, reacts instantly, while the rational mind, the prefrontal cortex, takes longer. By pausing, even for just 3 seconds, you shift power from reaction to reason. Marcus Aurelius lived this. Instead of lashing out, he reflected. Instead of feeding anger, he examined it. You can practice this today. In every conversation, before replying, take a slow breath. That silence alone changes the energy of the room. Stoics believe that words should be like sculpted marble, few, precise, and lasting. When you practice silence, you learn to choose words carefully. Instead of 10 sentences, speak one that lands. Instead of explaining endlessly, deliver a line that cuts through noise. People will remember what you said because they didn't expect you to say it. Practical step. Before you speak, ask yourself, does this add weight or just more noise? If it's noise, let it go. You cannot project calm if you don't build it internally. The Stoics had rituals, morning reflections, journaling, daily reminders of mortality. Today, you can use modern equivalents. Morning silence, 5 minutes without phone, without words. Just breathing, journaling, writing out thoughts instead of spilling them on others. Night reflection, asking, where did I overreact today? Where could I have been silent? These small acts create massive change over time. They train your nervous system to default to calm instead of chaos. Silence isn't absence, it's presence. Practice active listening. Lock eyes, not absorb. You'll notice that people feel more valued around you. Ironically, the less you speak, the more powerful your voice becomes when you finally choose to use it. Remember this: silence is not weakness. It's not retreat. It's restraint. And restraint is the language of kings, warriors, and leaders. The world may shout louder and louder, but the man who remains centered becomes the anchor others search for. So, how do you become the kind of man whose silence alone carries weight, whose presence alone inspires respect? That's where we're heading now. Becoming the man who speaks without speaking. Becoming the man who speaks without speaking. Imagine walking into a room and feeling every head subtly turn toward you. Not because you're loud, not because you demand attention, but because your presence speaks louder than your words ever could. This is the essence of the silent man. He doesn't need to announce himself. His energy, his composure, his restraint, they do the speaking for him. Psychologists call it nonverbal dominance. The way you carry yourself communicates before you even open your mouth. A steady gaze, calm posture, and controlled movements all signal quiet authority. Silent men understand this truth. The body speaks what the mouth doesn't need to. Marcus Aurelius didn't need to boast about being emperor. His presence alone reminded everyone of his position. In the same way, you don't need to prove your worth with words when your calm presence already commands respect. Here's the key: silence isn't about withdrawal. It's about intentionality. When you stay silent during conflict, you're not weak, you're unshakable. When you listen instead of interrupting, you're not passive, you're in control. When you choose a few words instead of many, you're not shy, you're strategic. This is how you become the man who speaks without speaking. Every silence is a statement. Every restraint is a message. 1. Master your gaze. Look people in the eye when they speak. Don't dart around nervously. Silent men project steadiness. 2. Slow your movements. No fidgeting, no rushed gestures. Calm movements signal confidence. 3. Hold space. Whether in conversation or in a room, don't shrink yourself. Take your place with quiet certainty. 4. Let others reveal themselves. Your silence invites others to speak, and often they expose more than they realize. This gives you knowledge, and knowledge is power. Think about the men who've inspired you the most. Chances are they weren't the ones constantly talking. They were the ones who, when they did speak, made you stop and reflect. That is the legacy of the silent man. Fewer words, but words that linger. To become the man who speaks without speaking, you must stop chasing noise and start cultivating presence. Your silence can be your shield, your weapon, and your wisdom, all at once. The world doesn't need more men shouting for attention. It needs men whose silence commands respect. And now, we tie it all together. The ancient wisdom of the Stoics, the psychology of restraint, and the modern path for men to reclaim their quiet strength. The psychology of silent men. Silence. It's more than just the absence of words. It's the presence of strength. Throughout this journey, we've seen why silent men command respect, how Marcus Aurelius embodied restraint, and the psychology that proves quietness is not weakness, but mastery. We began with the unspoken power of silence, why those who speak less are often heard more. We explored Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who showed us that restraint is the highest form of strength. We uncovered the psychology of quiet strength, from mystery to emotional regulation. We built practical frameworks to create calm in a loud, chaotic world. And we ended with the ultimate vision, becoming the man who speaks without speaking, whose presence alone carries weight. The truth is this: the world will always reward noise on the surface, but deep down, people will always respect a man who doesn't need to prove himself with words. The silent man is not empty. He is full. Full of self-control, full of focus, full of quiet confidence. Silence is not about muting your voice. It's about amplifying your presence. So, ask yourself, will you keep drowning in the noise, always trying to be heard? Or will you step into the rare strength of silence, the kind that commands attention without asking for it? If you found value in this message, don't just keep it to yourself. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more deep insights on psychology, masculinity, and the mindset of strength. And leave a comment below. What role does silence play in your life? Remember, the man who controls his tongue controls his world.